Few realize it, but living with an undisciplined mind is like inhabiting a house without foundations. At any stronger wind, everything shakes. We are dragged day after day by the most immediate impulses, by automatic reactions that seize us and lead, without noticing, to places we did not choose to go. We believe the mind is as it is, unchangeable, to be tolerated rather than shaped. And thus, we follow as passengers of ourselves, resigned to the idea that mental strength is a privilege of the few, a mysterious gift reserved for rare souls. But Stoicism teaches otherwise. It teaches that the mind can be trained, like the body. It can be strengthened, shaped, prepared, not with a sudden explosion of willpower, but with discipline, constancy, and clarity. Not as someone who seeks immediate results, but as one who builds, day after day, an invisible fortress, an internal structure that, even amid chaos, remains intact and silent. The most common and tragic mistake is believing that mental strength arises spontaneously, that it is a matter of luck or genetics. In the Stoic tradition, it is the inevitable result of rigorous training. Epictetus, unshakable even amid the greatest deprivations, said that true training is of the mind, learning to distinguish what depends on us and what does not, focusing all forces only on what we can truly control. Seneca reinforces this view with his relentless lucidity. No one becomes wise by chance. Wisdom, serenity, self-mastery, all are fruits of the continuous and deliberate exercise of reason over passions. Not about inspiration, nor about heroic, isolated moments, but about a daily, silent practice that rarely is celebrated, but profoundly transforms whoever adopts it. This video is about that secret almost no one tells you. Training your mind as a Stoic is not about talent nor luck, but method, discipline, and applied philosophy. Not a speech, but a practice. Not an unattainable ideal, but a possible, concrete, and silent routine. And by adopting this training day after day, you will find yourself different, more stable, stronger, freer, like a fortress built not with bricks, but with choices. Now, take a deep breath, and let's enter the first great principle of this training. Most people live imprisoned by an endless sequence of automatic impulses. Someone hurts us, and we react. Something threatens us, and we attack or flee. Life becomes, then, a chain of stimuli provoking responses, without reflection, without pause, without consciousness. And in this silent automatism, freedom is lost, and with it, dignity. Epictetus reminds us that it is not what happens that determines our lives, but how we choose to respond to what happens. But this choice is only possible if we recognize that between stimulus and response, there is a space, small, silent, almost imperceptible, but fundamental. This space is the seed of all freedom. The invisible mistake is to confuse emotion with action, believing that feeling anger obliges us to express it, or that feeling fear prevents us from advancing. The Stoic knows there is an interval, and within that interval lies the possibility to interrupt the automatic cycle and create a deliberate, lucid, serene response. Imagine the archer. Before releasing the arrow, he carefully adjusts his aim. It is not the strength with which he pulls the string that ensures accuracy, but the conscious pause before releasing. So too with the mind. It is not impulse that makes us strong, but the ability to stop, breathe, and allow reason to intervene between impulse and action. Training the mind as a Stoic starts here, perceiving the space, expanding it, inhabiting that silent interval, and from it, transforming each response into a conscious act, not an instinctive repetition. There is no greater freedom than this, choosing how to be, even when everything seems to push us to react without thinking. Daily anguish often arises from the futile attempt to control what is beyond our reach. We try to manage others' reactions, predict the future, avoid the unforeseen. And when we fail, as we inevitably will, we are overcome by frustration, anxiety, and exhaustion. Epictetus precisely traced the line that separates freedom from emotional slavery. Some things depend on us, others do not. This simple yet profound distinction is the core of Stoic mental training. Those who try to control the uncontrollable enslave themselves to their own despair. Those who accept limits liberate themselves, rest, and find serenity. The undisciplined mind wants everything, to control others' thoughts, circumstances, outcomes. The trained mind chooses wisely. It focuses energy only on what it can change: conduct, attitude, judgments, inner disposition. Think of the sailor who adjusts his sails but does not attempt to change the wind's direction. He knows his limits, and by accepting them does not feel weak but wise. And so he continues, advances, reaches the destination, not because he controls external forces, but because he masters his own choices. Training the mind as a Stoic is above all cultivating this distinction daily, to separate clearly what depends on you and what does not, and with the same clarity to abandon the illusion of total control and assume full responsibility for what is within your reach. Now, take another breath and prepare for the next essential tactic, one that fortifies you against life's inevitable challenges. Many live trapped in the illusion that life will be a continuous flow of successes, harmonious encounters, and flawless achievements. And so, when the inevitable occurs, failure, loss, frustration, they are caught by surprise, seized by despair, paralyzed by fear. Seneca, with his uncompromising lucidity, taught, "The man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." This is not about cultivating pessimism, but embracing a lucid and protective realism. The Stoic mind does not fear anticipating what might go wrong. On the contrary, it strengthens itself in this exercise, preparing to endure when the expected does not occur and the undesired appears. Training the mind, therefore, also means habituating it to contemplate, without panic, possible obstacles. Before they arise, before they test your serenity, you will have already seen them. You will have already faced them, at least in imagination. And thus, when they become real, they will not find you defenseless. Think of the general who studies the terrain before battle. He does not rely solely on the strength of his weapons, but on the intelligence of preparation. He knows the ambushes, anticipates the attacks, calculates the risks. And so, when the fight begins, he does not act on impulse, but with strategy and serenity. The Stoic prepares like that general. Upon waking, he visualizes the challenges he might encounter: a setback, an offense, a loss. And by anticipating them, he does not surrender to fear, but to the silent strengthening born of preparation. There is no surprise for those who have already imagined the worst, and there is no defeat for those who have made anticipation their ally. Now, get ready, because the next lesson will show that letting go is as essential as preparing. Much of human suffering arises from the refusal to accept what is inevitable. everything changes, everything passes, everything transforms. Attachment to possessions, relationships, social roles, youth, or status is like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. Marcus Aurelius, in his Stoic wisdom, contemplated this truth serenely. Everything natural is fleeting. Stoic mental training consists of practicing daily this deep acceptance of impermanence until it ceases to be a threat and becomes a silent companion, a constant reminder of the need to live with presence and lightness. Training the mind is not about clinging to what you have at any cost, but about learning to let go when the time comes with dignity and peace. The undisciplined mind resists, fights, denies change, and suffers. The trained mind recognizes what arrives, arrives, what departs, departs. And in this flow, it finds serenity. Imagine someone holding water in their hands. Squeezing harder does not prevent loss. It only hastens it. The wise person, on the other hand, knows how to release. They know that life's beauty lies precisely in the fact that nothing is guaranteed. And because of that, everything deserves to be lived with intensity, but without possessiveness. Thus, the Stoic meditates on impermanence not as a morbid exercise, but as an antidote to despair. They know that what they have today may be gone tomorrow, and this awareness does not paralyze, but liberates them. For those who accept impermanence live with more gratitude, more presence, and less fear. Now, take a moment, because the next practice will show that mental strength is not built in great acts, but in daily, silent training. Many believe that mental strength reveals itself only in great challenges, in exceptional moments that demand courage or resilience. But for the Stoic, this is an illusion. True fortitude is not built through sporadic acts of heroism, but through silent and disciplined cultivation, repeated daily, far from applause, far from the gaze of others. Seneca warned, "No wind is favorable to those who do not know where they are going." Mental training, therefore, requires clear direction, method, and above all, constancy. It is not enough to want to be strong. It is necessary to practice strength. It is not enough to admire wisdom. It must be exercised every day, with every choice, with every response we give to the world. Training the mind as a Stoic involves making, at the end of each day, a simple yet powerful gesture, looking at oneself with honesty and asking, "How did I react today? Where did I fail? How can I be better tomorrow?" Not with severe judgment, but with the serenity of one who knows that improvement is a path, not a destination. Think of the sculptor who patiently removes chips from marble day after day until the desired form emerges. There is no rush, no despair, only a silent commitment to the process. The same applies to the mind. It does not transform overnight, but in the delicacy of each small adjustment, in the attention to each slip, in the decision not to abandon self-growth even when no one is watching. The Stoic does not wait for collapse to realize that the mind needs training. They sharpen it every day, like one preparing a blade, not because there are enemies in sight, but because they know that when they come, and they always do, it will not be brute strength, but silent preparation that determines their victory. Now, breathe deeply and get ready for the final reflection, one that will consolidate all these practices into a lifelong discipline. Training the mind as a Stoic is to renounce, once and for all, the belief that inner strength is a gift reserved for a few. It is not a hidden talent, nor an inspiration that arises in moments of crisis. It is rather a continuous choice, a rigorous method, a silent and deliberate practice that, over time, transforms who we are at the deepest level. Epictetus is the symbol of this secret, a man deprived of external freedom, who, precisely because he trained his own mind, conquered a freedom that no one could take away. He did not make himself a hostage of circumstances. He did not demand that the world be different. He trained to be different, and thus remained invulnerable. Marcus Aurelius reinforces this lesson. Even surrounded by power, battles, and intense pressures, he never waited for extraordinary moments to practice philosophy. On the contrary, he lived it daily, in the small decisions, in the silent conduct of his soul, even when the world around him seemed to collapse. Training the mind as a Stoic is exactly this, not waiting for a crisis, not waiting for collapse, not depending on suffering to realize that our mind must be cultivated, sharpened, shaped. It is transforming the ordinary into extraordinary discipline. It is preparing every day, even when nothing seems to demand it, because we know that the true enemy is never the other, but our own unpreparedness. Like someone who silently sharpens a blade every day, even when there are no enemies in sight. Because when they come, and they always do, it will not be improvised strength that saves us, but the preparation that, in silence, we have cultivated throughout a lifetime. Now, breathe deeply. Carry this reflection with you, and remember, you are not a prisoner of your impulses, but the artisan of your mind. If this message resonated with you, write in the comments, "I choose to train my mind every day." Like and subscribe to help us spread this silent and profound Stoic philosophy. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message.